Alright, so I'm just going to be showing you guys how I fixed my 2004 Lincoln LS V8. They had a very common problem. A lot of the cooling parts that are plastic and were molded initially just began to leak. Looks like at the moldings where they were initially made at the factory. So what I did was I used a specific epoxy. Right here, Perma Epoxy, 5-minute plastic weld. It's good for 250 degrees. Basically what you do, you just mix it up and you know, just put it on the plastic connections where you know it was leaking. Now mine, as most of these cars, was leaking right here on the upper radiator hose where the plastic connection here is. And also afterwards I discovered the water inlet, which is the piece right after the actual thermostat housing here. So it has a giant leak pretty much the whole length of the water inlet itself. Now the part itself isn't that expensive, but you know, it's more or less a hassle to bleed the cooling system in this car. You know, I had to do some research on that. Eventually figured it out, and I already ran the car for, you know, a good half an hour. Doesn't look like there's any leaks here at all because you would see it precipitate down the pipe. It's a very familiar, you know, sight for a lot of these Lincolns. And also here, you could clearly distinguish it before. I did have to take this pipe off. It's just two small fittings, one right here and one here. I did replace it with a different clamp, you know, when I did put it back together. Now the other thing is, you know, the piece itself, the water inlet, not that expensive, but there's a bunch of little sealants and gaskets that you would have to also replace and buy just to hunt those parts down yourself. It's pretty hard. In terms of coolant, the other thing is this car requires a very specific type of coolant. You can't mix any of the universal, anything with dextrose won't work. So I had to go to the Ford dealership and I had to pick this up. It's Smartercraft Gold Antifreeze Coolant Concentrate. You do have to mix this. I only needed a little bit, so you know, I just used maybe a couple cups worth. But if you do have to disassemble all of this, you will need quite a bit more. Now the other thing is, this car has a relatively complicated bleed procedure. Now the bleeder connection, or hose rather, or valve, is this right here. It's next to the actual coolant reservoir. Now what you do is you put the car on, you know, run it with the heater on for a while until, you know, there's hot air. You know, you would fill your tank here somewhat. You know, I started with halfway. There's marks there. You could see it on yours. I don't know how clear this will be. Anyways, so you would open this up with a basic screwdriver, you know, 2 to 3 turns. Eventually, when the system is bled and there's no more air in the system, you would see a little leak, kind of a constant stream of coolant coming out here. At that point, you would just close it. And you know that you don't have any more air in the system. These cars use a sealed cooling system. It's fairly complex. Parts are kind of hard to find. So, you know, we'll see how this fix holds up. I did run the car through a couple cycles already with the epoxy on it, you know, with the AC, with the heater, with everything. And so far, no leaks at all. You know, it looks clean. And I'll keep you guys updated.